Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Ask Reddit episode. Today's episode is what is something unrealistic that you often see in movies that annoys out of you when you watch the film? The overall lack of communication. I feel like 90% of all drama is coming from this in some way. High school scenes where there are lounges in the hallways and students are free to be wherever they want to be around the buildings no matter the time of day without consequence. We literally had 4 minutes between class to get to our lockers and across the building. Nobody was sitting down that time. Omniscient bad guys. I know you have the plot more forward, but dude is trying to hide in Europe, and somehow the villain is always where the hero wants to go before they get there. I mean, Europe is pretty big, and I can't imagine getting totally lost there would be at all that difficult. And then they suddenly stop being omniscient at the end of the movie, letting the protagonist save the day. Memsteptic says, I am 76 years old and have been buying things in stores since I was 5. I have never ever seen somebody toss some money on the counter and say keep the change and then dash out with the purchase. I work in a liquor store. Customers do this once a week or so. Half the time I chase them outside because it's not enough money to cover their purchase. They know what they're doing. Edgar says people living in these gigantic New York or LA apartments while working jobs that realistically could never pay for such a nice place. And if they do have a job that could afford those places, that they would have any time to get involved in whatever is happening in the plot. Secret Saucer says, this reminds me of the bit in Friends where they are all in Central Park. Somebody asks, why do you, our bosses, hate us? And somebody says, maybe it's because you are drinking coffee with your friends at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday and they all get up and leave. Opaque beverage cups are always empty and never look right when hefted and drank from. They could at least put water in them to get the motion right, but never do, and once you start noticing this, it just ruins so many shots for you because it looks stupid. Edit, I mean cups and mugs. Edit, drank should be drunk. Split Mind says, my biggest pet peeve exactly, put some water in the cup. Susie says, people getting knocked out cold for an hour and then waking up and going about their day like nothing's happened. I once got knocked out for like 2 minutes and ended up sick for a month. Savings Equipment says, yeah, they use a knockout like a human pause button. So many goons would have had very serious brain damage. Shows like Lost make blunt force trauma to the brainstem look such a non-issue that if I lived in that part of the world, I might ask a friend to hit me in the back of the head if I was going to have a particularly difficult time sleeping one night. Cat's Tail says, I was knocked out for 5 minutes and spent 3 weeks in an induced coma and have permanent brain damage from it, though thankfully mild enough to be inconvenient rather than debilitating. Head injuries are not to be trifled with. If somebody is unconscious for an hour with no treatment, there's a good chance they are not waking up. Nat says, I read somewhere once that if a person gets knocked out and doesn't wake up inside of about 30 seconds, they are going to have, at best, significant brain trauma issues. Ever since then, I catch myself counting the seconds when I see somebody get knocked out in a movie to try to figure out how messed up they are going to be. Susie says, I've had light speech problems for 2 years after said 2 minutes. Mind 101 says everything is always so dark and no one ever bothers to turn the lights on. Even when they do, it's like a 10-watt bulb in a warehouse that only illuminates 2 feet around it. Dr. Identity says, I always see the opposite, where somebody turns out the lights to go to sleep, but I'll still somehow bright enough in the room to see every detail. There is no easy way to film darkness. People doing CPR. Then the person who just got CPR wakes up like 10 minutes later and eats lunch. Also, movies are really bad at maintaining sterile fields in operating rooms. Brand X says defibrillators are the worst in film, never ever used for what they actually perform. They are not meant to start a stopped heart. They are there to try to and reset a heart going into fibrillation or arrhythmia. You meant they aren't portable Frankenstein labs? Clear, it's alive. First guy clear, second guy literally is still holding on to the patient. Patient chest leaps into the air. Dispatcher says, I also like to watch for people who are not clear. Hollywood bringing the heart on assistol since 1950. The CPR wouldn't work anyway. They never do it right. In fairness, if they did it right on a live actor, they'll break ribs at best. Insurance rates would skyrocket. I love that pediatric patients have a heart rate of like 55 on monitors too. Spiky window cleanser says, the old you cough you die. My wife and I called the two-scene warning ever since we saw A Walk to Remember many years ago. If you aren't the sole lead and openly acknowledge your illness, the clock is ticking. If you cough blood and weren't in a fight, same. To be fair, coughing blood is always a bad sign. The disregard for basic physics. The Fast and Furious has entered the chat, casually strolling away from a massive explosion. They have eardrums of steel and shrapnel-proof skin. It's legit, I googled it. You really need to watch the other guy's 1080p explosion scene. When the mom prepares a feast for breakfast and everyone only takes a bite or two before rushing off. My mom would have killed me for wasting food. Also, she wouldn't prepare a feast for breakfast. Milk and OJ in fancy jugs rather than the carton. Doksajif says, what's wrong now, Carla? Well, big sister, if you just haven't been the same since you that run with your classmate Peter at the bar, where I've been working since I dropped out of college due to having an abortion. Tobias Mason Park says, I can't believe you, Becky. Did you know how hard it was to raise you by myself after mom and dad died in a tragic car accident? You think I want to live this life? You think I want to live in this cozy, well-furnished two-bedroom apartment that I can somehow afford with my $50,000 a year before taxes job? What do you think, Becky? Did you write the script for any of those made TV Disney movies by chance? This is dead on sounds of the script of Secret Life American Teenager. Calling someone and then instantly starting talking. I don't know why, but this has really bothered me. You didn't even let it ring. Also, when they don't say bye when they hang up. My mom never identifies herself, never makes sure that she has the right person on the other end, just starts talking. My boss never says hi when he calls me. This is how people on the phone call starts off. Vicious Nerd says, when the entire plot rests on a character not explaining something that can be explained in under 1 minute. Characters making the dumbest, most unrealistic choices to further the plot. Ordering at a restaurant and only taking one bite and leaving. In a post-apocalyptic world, somehow all cars on the roads are parked or stranded in such a way that our main character has no problem driving between them. Witness protection somehow always fails in movies. Zombieland, for all its hokey shenanigans, got a nod of approval from me when it showed clogged up roads and Tallahassee driving a vehicle equipped with cattle catcher, snowplow, blade in the front for bashing cars out of the way. Everyone always answers the phone, usually on the first ring, and no matter where you are, you have perfect reception. Except in horror movies. Gun silencers being that quiet, in reality they are like the sound of somebody clapping. For that matter, just about any gun being fired inside, the noise is deafening. Even in the movies, you see people wearing hearing protection at a range. But then when action scenes occur, that aspect is completely thrown out. Action heroes apparently aren't scared of tinnitus. As someone who has had tinnitus from firing an AK-47 without any ears on, they should be very scared. Sleeping gets tough when you hear "wee" as you're trying to sleep. Why would that cause tinnitus? You took your ears off and stored them properly before firing, right? How bad that villain always are at chilling. Don't get me wrong, stars wouldn't be the same if Luke got skipped by Stormtrooper 30 minutes into the first movie, but good God, are they bad? Stormtroopers are overly emotional, they miss everyone. In the first Star Wars movie, Episode 4, it actually makes sense as it's established that the Empire allowed Luke and his friends to escape the Death Star so that they could track them to the location of the Rebel base. In all subsequent movies, it still makes no sense at all. Nobody opens the door 2 seconds after the doorbell rings. Nobody. Yeah, we're all inspecting who could possibly be at the house at least 1 minute, and the next minute, open up the door. I hate it when somebody's driving and they're talking to their passenger without looking at the road for like 10 seconds at a time. No body hair ever. And makeup, full makeup and hair always done in Apocalypse. Alright guys, well thank you all for watching this episode. Make sure you subscribe. Comment down below if you like the Ask Reddit series. And we will see you all in the next episode. So make sure to like this video, subscribe, comment down below future suggestions for future videos, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Take care.